Good afternoon, everyone who has joined us from different parts of the world. We are delighted to have participants from 31 different countries joining in today. We are also delighted to welcome 3 experts who will be presenting on PhD and postdoc opportunities in France, Italy, and Poland. First of all, a warm welcome to Nicolas Duhaut, who is the Attaché for Science and Higher Education for the Embassy of France in Australia. We have also with us, joining all the way from Rome, Natalia Paganelli, who is the Senior Officer from the Conference of Italian University Rectors Foundation. And last but not the least, we have Agata Utnicka, who is the Deputy Head of Mission from the Embassy of Poland in Canberra. And I'm Nishant Sandilia, the Regional Representative for EURAXESS Australia and New Zealand. As you might have already preempted, what we will do is we'll go alphabetically on the PhD and postdoc opportunities in France, then in Italy, and lastly on Poland. So what I'll suggest all of you is, please type in the chat functionality any questions you have during the presentation. We'll come back to your question once all the 3 presentations are already delivered. We will try to keep it for 1 hour so that we have enough time also to address your questions. Before we move on to the actual presentation, we actually have a small exercise. A poll will appear on your screen, and it's just to understand what opportunity are you interested in, whether you are looking for a PhD or you are looking for a postdoc. I can see that 59% have already voted. I'll still give you 5 more seconds so that we understand more or less what your interest is. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I'm closing the poll right now. We have a very good blend again. It was the same last webinar as well. More or less 45% is PhD and 55% is postdoc. Still a good blend of audience, I must say. Now what we'll do is we'll move on to the first presentation, and I'll hand it over to Nicolas so that he can explain to you about PhD and postdoc opportunities in France. I'll just give you the presenter right, Nicolas, so that you could start with your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nishan. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Let me know if there is any issue with that, but I think that should work. Can you see my screen now? Okay, beautiful. So thank you very much, Nishant, and thank you for the opportunity to have me on this webinar. So I'm Nicolas Duhaut. I'm the Attaché for Science and Higher Education at the French Embassy in Australia, and I'm going to give you some information about PhD and postdoc opportunities in France. Before going into the topic itself, I would like to start to give you a bit of an overview of the French research system. I won't go into the details, but there are some specificities and facts that I wanted to share with you. The first thing I wanted to say is the overall organization of research in France. So this is, of course, not a detailed presentation here, but let's keep in mind that we have 2 major types of players when it comes to research in France. On the one hand, national research organizations such as CNRS, which is quite famous. It's the largest research organization in Europe. Some are generalists like CNRS, some are more specialized. For instance, INSTERM is specialized in health research. And on the other hand, we have, of course, universities, and also some specific type of universities that we call grandes écoles in France, which are more specialized in engineering mostly and business. So both of these types of universities do research, and the important thing is that they do research together. The basic building block of the French research system is what we call joint research unit, or UMR. So within the same research unit in France or lab, you will find staff from national research organizations and staff from universities and grande école. So it's a very integrated system. The other thing that I wanted to insist on regarding the French research system is the way it's organized geographically. So here you have a map, not a very detailed map, but for a good reason, of the main research centers in France. And the key thing to keep in mind here is the fact that over the past few years, about I would say during the last 10 years, universities have grouped together in France to create clusters. Sometimes they have, remember that universities used to come with numbers in France. You had Bordeaux 1, Bordeaux 2, Bordeaux 3, for instance, etc., etc. Many of these universities have merged to become research-intensive, transdisciplinary universities. And that's, I would say, comprehensive universities instead of being separated and specialized in one topic. And that's important for our discussion today, because thanks to this grouping or merging, interdisciplinary research is made much easier and feasible. And so this has an impact for research opportunities in France. This map is not entirely up to date, but that gives you an idea of the main centers, with a big concentration, of course, in the Paris region. This grouping of universities also have been strongly supported by the government through a program called Investissement d'avenir, or Investment for the Future. So this grouping, some of them have been selected to receive extra support, extra money for the government to support research and teaching activities. A few facts about research to finish this first part. Well, there is always a moment in this type of presentations when we all brag about how great and fantastic and performant our system is. So this is now for me. So you have a few numbers here. We are number 5 in the OECD for research and development spendings, number 4 in the world when it comes to research publication impact, number 4 again for the number of Nobel Prizes, number 2 for medals field. So a very strong reputation for research. France is a big research powerhouse. Something important that I really wanted to insist on is the fact that 42% of PhD candidates in France are not French. So that means that we have a very international and open system, very much open to international researchers. So now to doctoral studies. Something a bit specific about doctoral studies in France is that we don't really have doctoral programs. So you are not going to enroll in a doctoral program in France. It's more an individual project. So it's about finding a topic for research to do your PhD thesis, finding a supervisor, and then enroll in what we call a doctoral school. So we have 270 doctoral schools in France, and they are connected to our 2,500 research labs. And the role of the doctoral school is really to look after the administrative process of the enrollment, and also everything that goes beyond the research itself. So the doctoral school will provide classes that the doctoral candidate will take, not only to work on the research topic, but also to develop other type of skills that will be useful during the PhD and also after the PhD for your career. Usually a PhD will last between 3 and 6 years in France. The PhD in natural or hard sciences tend to be shorter than a PhD in social science and humanities. The cost of enrollment is extremely affordable in the French system. It's less than 400 euros a year. And we don't make any difference between domestic and international students at this level. The requirement to enroll would be to have a master's degree or something equivalent in your local system. And also something important to keep in mind is that you don't necessarily have to speak French to do your PhD in France. It's not mandatory, and it's really seen on a case-by-case basis. So, of course, if you want to do a PhD in French literature, you have to know a bit of French. But in science and engineering, for instance, as long as your supervisor is ready to work with you in English and that the research environment, which is often the case in France, is English speaking, then you're good to go in English. A few words about funding opportunities, because of course it's a very important part of doing a PhD. There are many opportunities available. I have listed the main one on this slide, and I think the slide will be shared after this webinar. So the universities themselves, they manage a certain number of fellowship, and it has to be seen as a salary. When you do a PhD in a French university, you will be hired, and that will be your first professional experience as a researcher. In addition to the fellowship from universities, our national research organizations that I mentioned earlier, they also manage some doctoral contracts. Same thing for research contract from what we call ANR, so our national research agency that funds research in France. Of course, European funding, and I'm sure that Nishant will be able to tell you more about that. We also have a scheme for support from the industry to PhD candidates, and I will tell you a bit more about that. And finally, a program that is managed by Foreign Affairs called FL, that also is available to support PhD projects in France. Now, if you want to, if you are interested to do a PhD in France, where can you find information and opportunities? So there is one platform, it's the Campus France website. Campus France is our national agency to promote French universities. And if you go to that website, you will find lots of information and opportunities. I give you a few examples here. We have a search engine of doctoral schools. So you can go through the different disciplines and look for the best doctoral school for you and see what are the topics available in that school. You can also look for a subject, a thesis subject. So here you have an example of 390 available PhD offers. And all of these offers, most of them, they will come with funding. So usually a lab will have funding for a specific project and will hire a PhD candidate based on this project. So you can go and use different type of search criteria to find a topic for you. A few words about what we call co-tutelle in French. Co-tutelle are international joint PhD, and it's a fantastic opportunity to do a PhD in 2 countries at the same time, being enrolled in your university, let's say in Australia or in New Zealand, and in a French university at the same time, spending time in both countries, having a supervisor in each university, and at the end, receiving 2 degrees or dual degrees. So a really good way to start as an international researcher as soon as the PhD, as soon as you are doing your PhD. Another program that I wanted to quickly mention is the CIFRE program. So CIFRE is quite an old program. Actually, it started more than 30 years ago, and it's a PhD program with industry placement. So basically, you are enrolled at a university as a PhD candidate and hired by a company. And the work that you are doing for the company is actually your PhD research. So a very good program to gain industry experience and research experience at the same time, and a very good way to discover how research and industry interact in the French system. It's a very important part of what France has to offer. And then, if you want to go even further, both programs, the co-tutelle and the CIFRE, can actually work together, and you can both be a CIFRE candidate and a co-tutelle candidate. And here you have 2 triangles working together between 2 universities and a French company. And there is no citizenship criteria, so a student from anywhere in the world can apply to be a CIFRE candidate or a co-tutelle candidate, or both. A few words about postdoctoral research in France. So the search engine available on the Campus France website also works for postdocs. So universities in France, research lab, they can post postdoctoral opportunities on the search engine, and then again you use the criteria depending on your discipline, the type of funding you are looking for, the duration, etc. And there will be a series of opportunities available through this portal. For other postdoctoral opportunities, it's also interesting to look at the websites of the national research organizations, because they also manage some postdoctoral funding as well. We also have what we call the LabEx, the Laboratories of Excellence. So these are very advanced labs supported by the government, and these labs on various topics from humanities to arts and natural sciences have extra support, extra money, in particular to support postdocs. Of course, the EURAXESS, no need to mention that it's a good way also to find opportunities in Europe, including in France. And we also have a specific program supported by the European Union called Prestige that will allow French universities to receive funding from the European Union to host postdoctoral researchers in their labs. Finally, a few words about what the French Embassy in Australia does to support PhD research and researchers' mobility. We have what we call the Nicolas Internship in France initiative. So through this program, we offer students, including PhD students, an opportunity to come to France to do a research internship on a topic that is proposed by a lab in collaboration with an industry partner. So again, a very integrated research industry approach. And we also have what we call the PhasIC program, which is again another scheme to support PhD mobility between France and Australia, researchers mobility, so including postdocs. So if a postdoc from Australia wants to spend a bit of time in France, he or she can apply to the PhasIC program, as well as the organization of workshops. Last slide here about how to come to France in the current situation, because obviously we all know, and we were having a very nice chat about that before starting this webinar, about the limitation of mobility in the current COVID context. Well, at the moment, France's borders are open, and the government has decided that it was extremely important to be welcoming to international researchers and students as soon as the COVID situation has improved in France. So from the beginning of the next academic year in September, any student from anywhere in the world will be welcome in France. We only have a short list of countries where COVID is still very active with limitation. Of course, New Zealand and Australia are not on this list. And the issue that we are facing, of course, are the limitation for Australian citizens. I don't know much about New Zealand, but for Australian citizens to be allowed to leave Australia by the government. But as soon as they will be, they are more than welcome in France. And finally, once it's possible to come to France, the government has put in place a specific visa for researcher. It's called Researcher Talent Passport Visa. And this visa comes with lots of facilitations, and it's really prioritized as a profile of people that we want to host in France in priority. So I hope I haven't been too long. I thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer questions later on. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, Nicolas. I think it was an excellent presentation, very to the point, and it's very encouraging to hear that the borders are open and that there are special provisions for researchers. So of course, these are very interesting and challenging times, and of course, it's a very good approach that the French government has taken. So of course, we look forward to this situation going away, of course, and then going back to normal. I can see quite some questions coming in. I would request everyone to please keep on writing on the chat function. We'll come back to your questions at the end of all the three presentations. Now we'll move on to the PhD and postdoc opportunities in Italy, and I'll pass on to Natalia. Natalia, I'll give you the presenter right just now.
Okay. Can you see my screen? Okay. Okay. Hello, everybody from Rome, Italy. I am Natalia Paganelli, and I am senior officer at CRUI Foundation. CRUI is the Italian Rectors Conference, which is the association of all the state and non-state universities in Italy. I'm quite sure that if someone plans to travel to Italy, probably research is not the first thing you think about. As you know, Italy is one of the countries that has the major concentration of UNESCO cultural heritage sites. So probably when traveling to Italy, you think about monuments, archaeological sites, and also nice things like coastline, landscape, good food, fashion, etc. But what about research? So let's see an overview of Italy and of its research landscape. Population 60 million. We have more than 90 universities, 1.7 million students, nearly 1,000 PhD courses yearly, and every year we have nearly 10,000 new PhD holders. And then we have also a parallel system of higher institutes of arts, higher education in arts, music, and choreography. The acronym is FM. What about research in Italy? Italy is comparable to Germany and France for a number of universities that are represented in the two main international rankings, among the first 1,000 in the QS ranking, and in the first 600 for Times Higher Education. And it ranks also quite high in the same group of countries for research citations and for research publications. The quality of research is quite diffuse in Italy because it has a very high concentration of research institutes, universities, and healthcare research institutes. And it has also a wide range of universities, which means very old universities dating back to 13th century, and new universities with a range of departments, big universities and smaller ones, as well as some research schools addressing third level degrees only. So they are called the General Universities for Advanced Studies. We have 20 regions, and every Italian region has at least one or more universities, so there is a wide choice. And we have 180 university departments that are labeled as excellent, according to a national ranking carried out by our Ministry for University and Research on the basis of research indicators of the National QA Agency. And they received a special financement by the Ministry for the years 2018-2022. Just to give you an overview, this is the map of Italy, and so you can see that there is a concentration of universities, of course, in the capital, Rome, in Milano, but also in other big cities. But it's really quite diffused. These are our two major islands with also universities there. So we have 98 universities, 67 state and 20 non-state, but obviously legally recognized, 11 open universities, which means universities that offer distance learning. As I said, more than 1.7 million students. And here is a link where you can browse universities by region. So you have to choose one of the 20 regions, and the system will display what universities are there. Like in France, we have, of course, also a research institute. We have a National Research Council, and as my colleague said, also in Italy, sometimes they work together, universities and research institutes. And some of them have also a sort of double affiliation. Let's see how are the PhD programs organized in Italy. In Italy, there is a common framework for all recognized universities for PhD programs, which means that all universities publish a call for application more or less in the same period. The notice is in the website, early summer or spring, summer of every year. And the participation in calls is compulsory if you want to enroll. There are scholarships that are provided for the 3-year period of a PhD program. Generally, the standard period is 3 years. And these scholarships are available for the majority of the selected candidates. Of course, there is the possibility to run the PhD in English in many universities, especially for hard sciences. And PhD courses are accredited by our national QA agency, with a particular attention and focus on research qualification of the members of the doctorate programs councils, which are the boards that coordinate the PhD programs in universities, and so this is a guarantee of the quality. I have to say also that there are also enrollment without scholarships. Often this option is used by employees that who want to upgrade their competencies. Enrollment fees in any case are quite low, and some people, maybe not coming from other countries, but if they want to invest in the update of the upgrade of their competences, some people choose this option because with a moderate investment, you can have really an excellent research training. As I said, each academic year, the university issues a call for application. In Italian, this is bando di concorso. And there you can find all the information and the requirement and the application guidelines. Selection procedures, duration of the course, number of places with scholarships and funding institutions, number of non-scholarship places and partner institution, if any. Also, you can find information if there are special programs, for example, for PhDs with industry. In Italy, there is below the possibility to use this particular kind of PhD scholarship, which is apprenticeship, in collaboration with industries, or with companies. So in that case, this is duly advertised, and you can opt for this possibility. The access requirements, of course, are the same as in France. So for people non-Italian citizen, a foreign university degree, of course, by a recognized institution, corresponding to the master level degree, which is the same level required in Italy to access a PhD program. Of course, depending on the PhD program, specific disciplines may be required. As I said, candidates are selected on a competitive basis, and there are additional qualifications that can be requested, and you may be asked to attach letters from your university or faculties. Benefits, the amount of the scholarship is defined by law. It's around a little bit more than 15,000 euros a year. It is tax exempt, but of course, both the university and the candidate, the PhD candidate, have to pay social security. 2/3 paid by the university and 1/3 by the candidate. You can have from the second year 10% additional budget for research, and for periods abroad, for travels abroad, with the rules, of course, of the university, you can have a 50% increase. It is possible, of course, to make online applications and online interviews for the to participate in the call. Additional funding from private foundation or regional bodies or other national organizations or European Commission are duly advertised, but in any case, as there is a common framework for the whole system, the universities are in any case your entry point. Now a few words about research fellowships in Italy. The name is Assegni di Ricerca. There are also postdoc scholarships, but today I will talk about Assegni di Ricerca because they are the most popular and also standardized type of fellowships. They are regulated by national law. So for scholars with a scientific professional curriculum appropriate for conducting research. And we have also here a public selection procedure, so with possible interviews, and a formalized contract under private law. This contract does not give right of access to the role of university personnel. It is a collaboration with under the direction of the scientific coordinator and within the limits of the research programs you will be involved in. The duration generally ranges from 1 to 3 years. It can be renewed, but there are limitations, maximum 6 years, but of course with some internal limitations that are defined by the regulations of the universities. The minimum yearly gross amount of the fellowship is established by law and is around 23,000 euros. And as in a scholarship, in PhD scholarship, the 1/3 of the quota for social security is in charge of the fellow. They are tax exempt. And of course, there are limitations for other incomes according to university regulations and national provisions. Just to give you an example, a practical example, you have to know that in Italy, all of the positions financed by our ministry must be published on the EURAXESS site. So it is really for us the entry point to get information and to have an overview. Some days ago, I just made a test for selecting a research field, biological sciences in this case, and of course, country Italy. And there you can see the number of positions that are the jobs and positions that are advertised. And the first two are exactly what I've been showing so far. So a job for a fellowship for 24 months. So here you can find all the information. It is at the University of Milano. And a call for application to the PhD courses. As you see, the number of posts is 175 because this is the global call for this university. So in this call, there are different disciplines. The University of Salerno is in southern Italy. And so if you see in this part, it is displayed also the logo of the ministry because it is what I was saying before. They are obliged, it's compulsory to publish. So if you go, you see that there are a lot of positions, more than 1,000. If you click on Italy and you select the country. So now I'm in the last. I will show you the last examples. Here are some examples of what you will find in universities' websites, not only EURAXESS centers. This is an example of the University of Cagliari, which is one of our EURAXESS center, and you will get advice. These are the contacts of our colleague at the EURAXESS Service Center at this university. But generally, all universities have a website in English. So if you land in the home page and you see Italian, don't panic, because generally on the top of the screen you will have the web version in English, and you will find information on the PhDs under research or under postgraduate or directly under the section PhD courses. This was the example of a university of Messina, which is in Sicily. University of Trento as well as a section for PhD students. University of Padua. Some have also other resources, like for example the International PhD Guide that you can see here in the University of Padua. The PhD page of the University of Verona, always in the northern part of Italy. And also there are, of course, specific programs, for example, in the departments that display, have their own databases where you can find opportunities, and also free courses addressing PhD students, additional courses for other skills, to acquire other skills. And this is the one for the University of Torino. And finally, one of our foundation, Foundation Edmund Mack, which is part of our network, EURAXESS network, and also they have it is a research foundation, and they have also PhD opportunities together in collaboration with major Italian and international international universities. So finally, I leave you this link because I know that maybe some of you are quite curious about the situation of universities in Italy following the COVID-19 pandemic. All the universities are organized and to deliver teaching and in online, and it is we suppose that by September we will be able to have lessons at least in a blended, mixed way. So I don't display this video now because I know that the quality will not be that high online, but of course you can have a look from your computer. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Natalia. It was really interesting to hear on the different ways people could pursue PhD and postdocs in Italy. Of course, I can see that there are quite some interesting questions coming in. Just to clarify something, you'll receive the presentations at the coming days, of course, and also everything that is already included in the slides. I'm sure that some of the questions that you have been asking are already responded, but we'll try to respond them after Agata presents the PhD and postdoc opportunities in Poland. So of course, stay tuned, and we'll move on to the last presentation. I think I'll give the presenter right to Agata so that she can explain on what are the opportunities in Poland.
Yes, can you see my screen now? Okay. Yeah. So thank you very much, Nishan. Thank you to my colleagues for a very interesting presentation. I try to be brief because I can see that we have only 20 minutes left from the initial time. So I try to be brief and would like to present to you some research opportunities in Poland. To begin with, I would like to show you some reasons why Poland is one of the best choices for your PhD and postdoc research. So first of all, we have a long and rich tradition of university education dating back to the 14th century, where the university, Jagiellonian University in Krakow was established. Then Poland is homeland to famous Polish scientists. I'm sure you all know about Maria Skłodowska-Curie, Polish-born, then living in France, but Polish-born scientist. The only woman to receive 2 Nobel Prizes in different disciplines, and the only person to receive 2 Nobel Peace Prizes. And of course, her name is used for the flagship European research program, Maria Skłodowska-Curie Actions. Then we are in the top 5 in Europe in terms of the number of university students. Poland has a wide selection of over 700 study programs. I'm talking about not only PhD and postdoc, but in general. And then last but not least, it may be important for some of you, we have quite competitive tuition fees and living costs as compared to other parts of the world. A couple of words about the higher education system in Poland. To give you a general idea, we have like state, public and private higher education institutions. Then they can be of academic university type. These are the ones that you would be interested in because they offer at least 1 doctoral program, and then about 2/3 are vocational non-university institution, as in France and Italy. We also have research institutes that cooperate with universities on specific fields of research. Just to give you an idea, some of the best ranked universities in Poland. First of all, Jagiellonian University, which is the oldest one, then University of Warsaw, which is the biggest, and the 2 normally compete with each other. Then University in Poznan, Warsaw School of Technology, and some other names that you may be interested in knowing. A couple of statistics. This data is from 2019. It was published by NAWA, Polish Agency for Academic Exchange, and I will talk about a little bit later. So we have now, it's over 1 million students in Poland, about 400 universities, including like university and non-university type. Then we have 68 research institutes of the Polish Academy of Sciences. They also cooperate with universities. Other research institutes, and number of researchers is roughly 120,000 right now. Supporting bodies, so institutional framework of how it works in Poland. We have the Ministry of Science and Higher Education that is responsible for science and research in Poland, and then quite an important institution from your point of view, which was created in 2017. It's the Polish National Agency for Academic Exchange. This institution is responsible for lots of projects and programs for researchers. So then I will show you the link to their website and some of the programs they run with the support of the ministry and some EU funds that you may be interested in their programs. Then we have specific foundations and institutes that also depend on the Ministry of Science and Higher Education, like Foundation for Polish Science, Polish Academy of Sciences that have been mentioned, and its institutes, and National Science Center, just to name a few. Of course, I have to mention the EURAXESS Poland and its network. So we have 10 EURAXESS centers that are located at most of Polish regions. And this is also a good point of contact for you if you are interested in a particular university or city to get in touch with them and receive specific information about specific university or place you want to go to. Some words about PhD and postdoctoral studies. They usually in Poland last between 3 and 4 years. In order to access PhD studies, you have to be a holder of, like in other countries, France and Italy, master's degree or equivalent from your country. Then the admission conditions and whole procedures are published at least 5 months, usually at least half a year before the whole process starts. There are 2 paths for pursuing a PhD in Poland, the so-called doctoral colleges. doctoral schools, like my colleague from France mentioned. These were created in 2018 when the government adopted the so-called Constitution for Science, and this is a research-oriented program. You are employed by the university, you receive a scholarship fee, and then you can do your research and do some teaching as well, or you can also pursue an individual PhD. Then, like in other countries, the degree is awarded after you submit and defend your doctoral dissertation. You have to reviews by like independent reviewers apart from your supervisor, and at least one publication in a peer-reviewed journal. I think it's similar in other countries. Applications for PhD degrees and applications to doctoral colleges are normally processed by individual universities, so it's the best way to get in touch with them and get some specific information. But then if you apply for a certain scholarship, then you apply through the institution that announces the scholarship, but then part of this application is usually an invitation letter from a host institution. So the best way is to contact the university, contact the international office, try to find a potential supervisor that would be cooperating with you, and then lodge your application for scholarship. Some funding opportunities in Poland. I won't go into much details as far as EU programs are concerned, because I'm sure that you all know about that. There were some webinars on this topic specifically. So Maria Skłodowska Reactions, both for pre and postdoctoral researchers. Now one of them running with the deadline, if I'm not mistaken, on the 9th of September is Maria Skłodowska Individual Fellowship. This one is for experienced researchers. And then there are several national calls in Poland, so they may be either announced and awarded by individual universities. It can be like a scholarship for those that are being employed by the university, tuition-free studies, and some allowance and covering of living costs. Then the NAVA, that has its projects in program, and I will talk about it a little bit later. And just to mention one of the fellowships offered by our institutes, foundations, and research centers. This fellowship should be announced in spring, Australian spring, so that would be autumn in European terms. GAS fellowships at Polish Institute of Advanced Studies. This institute offers short-term residencies for young and senior researchers. So these are just some examples of the scholarships offered by individual institutions. And then NAVA programs. This is the, as I said, Polish National Agency for Academic Exchange. They have quite a large number of programs, both for outgoing, meaning Polish researchers, and incoming students, researchers, just to mention a few of them. Ulam and Ulam Seal of Excellence. Ulam was a famous Polish mathematician, and then the specific program called Polish Returns. This may be interesting for Australians with Polish origin, because this is a specific program with people that have some Polish heritage and Polish roots. There is also an additional element to this program related with COVID-19 research right now. Then there is now a chair for recognized foreign scientists. So just to mention some names and examples. And then Ulam program, Mobility of Scientists. This is one of the programs run by NAVA, and new call will be announced in November. So I thought it would be useful to mention this one specifically. This is for postdoctoral research, so you need to hold a doctoral degree. Of course, you cannot hold Polish citizenship, as with other PhD programs. The applicant should not have lived, worked, or studied in Poland for the last 3 years. Should have minimum 3 scientific achievements, and as I mentioned before, some contact and invitation from the host institution is necessary in this case. Visits can last from 6 to 24 months, and you have a living cost and mobility allowance as with other scholarships. So as I was told by my colleagues from NAVA, new call should be announced in November. There has been some delay because of COVID, but they still want to continue with this program, so it might be useful to have a look at this one. More information about specific opportunities. The first website is the website of the Ministry of Science and Higher Education, so you can have a look at them to see this one to see what is the general framework and legal regulations concerning higher education and research in Poland. Then the website of NAWA, on Polish Academic Exchange Agency, which is very useful for scientists and researchers. They have a specific section of this website dedicated to COVID-19 and the specific circumstances that we are living right now, both for potential researchers and those who are already in Poland. And then the website GoPoland.pl. This is a general website about studying in Poland, so you'll find information both about universities and the opportunities they offer, as well as about the conditions of living in Poland, where to travel, you know, how to travel, and specific information about life in Poland you can find there. Then the website of PIAST, which is one of the foundations that also offers scholarships, and of course the one that I already mentioned, which is a very useful website to have a look at the offers that Polish universities might have with EURAXESS in Poland. And as my colleagues have mentioned, you know, specific COVID-19 circumstances, just to give you an idea, Polish borders were initially closed for any foreigners. Now they are open, of course, for Polish citizens, for EU citizens, but we are also open and welcome students and researchers. So if you receive a scholarship in Poland or fellowship in Poland, there you would be exempted from specific border restrictions that we have for third country nationals. And because of EU Council recommendations putting Australia and New Zealand on the list of countries that should be allowed to enter EU countries. From what I understand, Polish government is planning to open to Australian and citizens of Australia and New Zealand. So you'll probably be on the list not only as potential students and researchers, but nationals of Australia and New Zealand anytime soon when the situation improves a little bit. So that would be all from my side. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
I think we have overrun our session by almost 10 minutes, and it was a pleasure to have all of you with us. A big thank you to our three speakers, and of course, Nicolas, Natalia, and Agata, it was a pleasure having you with us. We hope that all the audience had a good time listening to the insights that you had to share about these opportunities, and I'm really optimistic that there will be a large number of applications to the specific member states from Australia and New Zealand and other parts of the world that our attendees are attending from. A big thank you from our side, and we hope to stay in touch with all of you and have a good day. Thank you again for joining.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.